Now, you won't have forgotten, if you're a regular viewer of the programme, and I hope you are, that Britain could be on the way to a referendum on our EU membership after the next election. Whether the relationship is good or bad for Britain is an issue that divides politicians, the public and businesses. The single market is fundamental to our future. But industry isn't exactly full of starry-eyed Europhiles. And the CBI also says that if we do stay in, then reforms are urgently needed. This assessment has already been challenged, with UKIP leader Nigel Farage saying we don't need to be members of a political union in order to go on doing business. Well, joining us now from the CBI conference in London is Michael Rake, the president of the CBI and chairman of BT. Michael Rake, welcome to the programme. Have you accurately been able to gauge the level of Euroscepticism amongst your members?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Have you been able to accurately gauge the level of Euroscepticism amongst your members?
Right. Well, no, I think in the business community it's very clear, as we said, we want to remain in the European Union, but we want reform.
We're joined now by the UKIP leader Nigel Farage, and Axel Lemaire is still with us, of course. Well, that's a bit of a blow, isn't it? Because not only does he say that the majority of his members, businesses, whom you would like to get on board, back the idea of staying in the EU, but it's absolutely critical. It would be a huge mistake to leave.
Well, let's remember what the CBI is. It is big business, it is corporatism, it is effectively an arm of government, and most of the firms in the CBI love the EU. It's fantastic for them. They go to the Commission, they help the Commission draft rules, and those rules help stop small and medium-sized competitors from ever challenging them. And that's why.
Well,
that's why
because
the
some
CBI
of his members are small businesses. I mean, even in the sample that was done as part of their polling, all right, it was a smaller sample. You're right, of small and medium-sized businesses, but there was still a significant number, and 77 or 78%.
That was clever of the CBI.
Well, clever and true.
To throw a few small businesses in, knowing
more than a few,
knowing that when Business for Britain polled 1,000 firms with a genuine spread of large, medium and small businesses, 2/3 of their members wanted a referendum, and half of them said the costs of the single market outweigh any benefit. This CBI, these were the same people 12 years ago saying we should join the euro. They were wrong about that, and they're wrong about this.
Right, but Nigel Farage, are you dismissing then the 240,000 business members of the CBI who do think it is better to stay within the EU? Does their voice not matter?
Again, what is interesting is even within the CBI, the cracks are beginning to show. There's a significant minority of CBI members who don't agree with the view that Mike Rake's just put. And I mean, Digby Jones, who was the CBI's Director General a few years ago, has now come to the view reform is impossible within this European Union, and the sooner we have a referendum on it, the better.
Right, let's pick up on the reform is impossible. Isn't it true, Axel Lemaire, why would François Hollande, or Angela Merkel for that matter, want to do anything that would be beneficial to Britain in terms of regulation or reform or opt-outs for Britain, without the burden of having to pay for membership?
Because they believe that Europe is stronger with Britain in just as Britain is stronger as part of the European Union. It's this old debate sounds surreal to me. If I wanted to be cynical, I would say, oh, please leave. This will help the French businesses because you're one of our main competitors. So if you're out, you're just out of the picture.
Actually, we're your biggest export market. And this is the point that gets forgotten, that the British market is absolutely crucial for France and for Germany. We're now the biggest export market in the world for those two countries, and we will go on doing business regardless whether we're in a political union or not.
But that's an argument for reform, isn't it? Which is exactly what David Cameron is saying. If, as you say, we are so important from a trade point of view, that's the leverage, isn't it, for reform?
It could be, but the only way a negotiation would work is you walk into the room carrying a great big stick, and you say, give me X, Y and Z, or we're leaving. The Prime Minister's problem is, he is saying, give me X, Y and Z, and if you don't give it to me, we'll have a referendum in which I will endorse Britain's continued membership. He's going into this with a very weak hand.
I mean, the CBI, though, in a way, has tackled your argument about the benefits of coming out. So remaining a trading partner but not being part of the political union, because they have said they've looked at all those trading alternatives. They've looked at Norway, they've looked at Switzerland, and actually the benefits of leaving just aren't that great. We would have no influence and we would have the costs.
I've listened all day to the CBI spokesman on this, and they talked about the rest of the world and the Swiss model. Switzerland has got more trade deals with other parts of the world than we do as members of the European Union.
It took 9 years, apparently, for Switzerland to renegotiate partial access to the single market.
9
years is a very long time.
Switzerland are rich. Switzerland have got more trade deals globally than we've got. And the Swiss have recognised that Europe is not the economic future of the world. It's in fact going to become the backwater. We've got to be global, not just European.
What do you say to that, Axel?
Well, on reform, what I hear here in this country is that we need to tackle the red tape, put down obstacles to freedom of trade. And yes, we completely agree, but the red tape, most of the time, it comes from national legislations. For example, at the last EU summit, the heads of state, including David Cameron, said that they wanted e-commerce to be more developed. What is the problem with e-commerce at the moment? It's that we have 28 different states applying their own regulations.
Well,
so actually Europe is good in the sense that it brings
that argument
agreement.
was used for employment legislation, it was used for environmental legislation, and the reality is we finished up with thousands of new laws coming over the course of the last few years. Some governments interpret them rather more fully and rather more wholly than others, but the fact is the source of the legislation is Brussels.
Right. Do you disagree, though? And I mean, can you don't have to point this evidence in this particular interview, but can you actually point to the fact that £62 billion in net benefit from EU membership, they're very confident of that figure?
I've never heard such rubbish in all my life.
Is it rubbish?
Are they
saying CBI, who are very respected business people...
No, they're not. They are discredited because they wanted us to join the euro. And are they actually saying that if we weren't governed by Herman Van Rompuy and Mr Barroso, that Champagne would refuse to sell its produce in London? It is utter nonsense. And I can show you a study.
Except that you'd have tariffs, wouldn't you, Nigel Farage? You would have, if you had to go it alone...
on your biggest export market in the world.
You can't guarantee that there wouldn't be tariffs on 90% of exports to the EU.
If Monsieur Hollande wants French unemployment to rocket, he can consider tariffs. You know, the German car industry is very, very powerful in terms of lobbying within that country. They wouldn't allow Angela Merkel to even contemplate tariffs.
Do you think that's true? Or would Britain face those tariffs?
I think you're missing the point. Our priority at the moment is to be in a strong position enough to negotiate a good transatlantic partnership with the United States. And we're very conscious that we wouldn't be able to do that as France, as a single country. It's
Would you put tariffs on us?
It's Europe with its 500 million customers in one single market. In face of the US that can negotiate in a proper position.
Switzerland's done that with China. Iceland's done a free trade deal with China, and they've got 300,000 people. Big is not better.
The question about tariffs is interesting. Would you want François Hollande to put tariffs on British exports to the EU if, let's say, Britain went it alone?
No, but clearly the rules of the game would change. So it would depend on the particular situations, on the type of goods. It was so
no, You're right. The rules would change.
Reopen the book of negotiations.
We could scrap a whole load of employment regulations put on small industry. We could look at environmental legislation more sensibly and make ourselves more competitive.
But what companies need is stability. You would just reopen the whole book of negotiations and rules and people.
Is stability doing the French car industry much good? You know, when production's fallen by 50% in the last 4 years. Is stability being stuck in a currency that is 20% overvalued for France now? If that's stability, I don't want it.
Well, if we're still the fifth biggest power, you're the sixth, I think.
And on that, oh dear, she might have just...
Well, they always do, don't they?
Listen, Nigel Farage, thank you very much.